In this question, 12 professionals P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z and F who belong to a company PCL India Limited. They went for an annual business review May 2014 at Nainital. In Nainital, there are two resorts, Riverside and Jungle View, with each resort having six rooms in it. The room numbers are mentioned below: 20, 19, 18, 17, 16 and 15 for Riverside, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 and 35 for Jungle View. It is also mentioned that in these 12 professionals, 6 were directors, which are P, Q, R, S, T and V, and remaining 6, that is F, U, W, X, Y and Z, were senior executives. During the meet, they stayed in two different resorts, and they stayed with some conditions given in the question. It is, in fact, the two resorts are opposite to each other on the two sides of the road, and each room was facing one room of the other resort. They were facing in a manner, for example, the room number 18 of Riverside was facing room number 32 of Jungle View, room number 19 of Riverside was facing room number 31 of Jungle View, and so on. It is also given that S stayed in a room, the room number of which was half the room number of the room in which P stayed. U, who stayed in the same resort as that of Y, stayed in a room, the room number of which had exactly two factors. Exactly 4 directors stayed in Jungle View, and no 2 directors except P and Q stayed in adjacent rooms. V, who stayed in the same resort in which T stayed in a room, the room number of which had the maximum number of factors. T and R, who did not stay in the same resort, stayed in corner rooms. X stayed at Riverside. W did not stay in a room that was adjacent to that of any of the directors. Now, to solve this, first of all, what we have to do, we'll prepare a table which is in fact given in the question. The same table which will help us in finding out who stayed in which room. Let us prepare that table in a short way. Riverside, I will write it as RV and RS, and Jungle View I will write it as JV. The rooms are 20, 19, 18, 17, 16 and 15, and for Jungle View it is 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 and 35. In each of these resorts, one of the professionals will stay, out of which 6 are directors and 6 are executives. I will write the name of the professionals here in the blank boxes. Also, I will summarize the information which is given here in the points. The first point says that S stayed in a room, the room number of which was half the room number of the room in which P stayed. That means there are two rooms in which one room number was half of the other room number. So from statement 1, what I can interpret is the room number of S is half of the room number of P. So the possible values for S are either 15 because we have 30, 16 because we have 32, or 17 because we have 34. So correspondingly the values for P will be 30, 32 and 34. That means S will be staying in Riverside and P will be staying in Jungle View. Second point. The second point says that U, who stayed in the same resort as that of Y, stayed in a room, the room number of which has exactly 2 factors. Which number had exactly 2 factors? Which all numbers have exactly 2 factors? The only possible thing in this world is only prime numbers have exactly 2 factors, the number itself and 1. So this implies that U stays in a room number which is a prime number, and the possibilities are 17, 19 and 31. So he could have stayed either in Riverside or Jungle View. It is also given that U and Y stayed in the same resort. So again, the same resort could be either Riverside or Jungle View. We don't know that. Exactly 4 directors stayed in Jungle View and no 2 directors except P and Q stayed adjacent. Third statement says that 4 directors in Jungle View, which implies that 2 directors in Riverside and only P and Q are adjacent. Fine. Fourth statement. V who stayed in the same resort in which T stayed. V and T, same resort, stayed in a room, the room number of which had the maximum number of factors. So V stayed in a room which had maximum factors. We'll figure out that soon. Fifth point. T and R who did not stay in the same resort. T and R, different resort, stayed in corner rooms. T and R, different resort and in corner rooms. X stayed in Riverside. Last point. W did not stay in a room that was adjacent to that of any of the directors. That means the neighbors of W are senior executive. Neighbors are senior executives. These 6 points are given and we will now try to solve with the help of these 6 points and fill up the blanks. Easiest thing is that V stayed in a room which had maximum factors. Let's figure out which has maximum factors. 30. How many factors does 30 have? 30 has factors 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15 and 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 30 has 8 factors. 31 does not have 8 factors. 32 has 6 factors. 33, 34, 35. None of the numbers has more than 8 factors as 30 has. This can be easily calculated by anyone. So I would know that now we stayed in a room number 30. That is very clear. So this statement is done. V and T in the same resort. That means they both stayed in Jungle View, and T and R in the different resort and in corner rooms. From this I can say that R stayed in Riverside. So for him the possible values are either 15 or 20 for R. And since V and T stayed in the same resort and T again in corner room, the only corner room left in Jungle View is 35. So T must have stayed in room number 35. So here it will come as T, and for R it will be either 15 or 20. Now we'll go to statement 1. The possible values for S are 15, 16 and 17. For P are 30, 32 and 34. The 30 value is ruled out as V is already staying here. So for S the 15 value will get ruled out. Now the possible values for P are either 32 or 34. Now if I put S here in 32, if I put P here in 32, then I know that Q is adjacent to P. Q could come either in 31 or in 33. I know that V is a director, T is a director, and only P and Q stayed in adjacent rooms. So if P comes in 32, Q comes in 31, these three will become adjacent to each other, which is not possible. Next possibility is P stayed in 32 and Q stayed in 33, which is very well possible. Next possibility is P stayed in 34. As soon as I put P in 34, P and T, these two directors will become adjacent, which is again not possible. So the only possibility is P should have stayed in 32 and Q should have stayed in 33, and both of them are directors. So since P is 32, S will stay in 16. So I have S here in 16. Very clear. Now the next step. This is also a director. Now I know that R stayed in Riverside in either room number 15 or 20, and R is again a director. Since the only directors who are adjacent are P and Q, R cannot stay in 15 or 17. So since the 15 option is ruled out, R must have stayed in room number 20. So I'll fill R here, and R is again a director. All values are filled here. All directors have occupied their places. Now we'll move to last statement W. Neighbors whose neighbors are only senior executives, that is, he did not stay adjacent to any of the directors. We know that W cannot stay in 31 because both the adjacent people are directors. Similarly, he cannot stay in 34, he cannot stay in 15, he cannot stay in 17, he cannot stay in 19. The only possibility for W is 18. W can stay only in 18. Because in rest of the cases he will find either one or the other person as a director. Now rest of the 5 position, that is room number 31, room number 34, room number 15, room number 17 and room number 19 are to be occupied by 5 different senior executives, because all directors have occupied the room and one senior executive W has occupied his room. Now we will move with the questions. If Y stayed in Riverside, you must also in how many different if Y stayed in Riverside, in how many different ways could they have stayed? Let's see. Y stayed in Riverside. What are the possibilities where Y could have stayed? We know that U and Y stayed in the same resort. So as Y stayed in Riverside, you must have also stayed in Riverside. The third person in the Riverside is X. It's already mentioned in statement 5. X stayed in Riverside. So the rooms 15, 17 and 19 are to be occupied by U, Y and R. Now, we know that you could occupy a room in Riverside in 2 ways, because you can stay in either 17 or 19. For each of the way U stays in Riverside, Y and X can stay in 2 ways in the remaining 2 rooms. So the number of ways for U, Y and X are 2 into 2. These 3 people can stay in 4 ways in the 3 rooms. Now the remaining 2 people, Z and F, they have to stay in room number 31 and 34, and again they can stay in 2 ways, that is 8. So altogether they could have stayed in 8 ways. Next, for a quiz, the 12 professionals were divided into 4 groups with 3 members each, such that each group, all of its members staying in the same resort. That means 12 people are divided into groups of 3 members and all the 3 members must have stayed in the same resort. And each group comprised at least one director and at least one senior executive. Who among the following could not be a part of the group that included T in it? Look at the table. If T is a part of the group, who cannot be a part of that group? V can very well be a part of that group because V belongs to the same resort. U can be a part of the group because we are not sure whether you stayed in 31 or not. P can be a part of the group because P stayed in the same resort. R cannot be a part of that group because R stayed in a different resort. So the group in which T is there, R cannot be there in that group. So the answer is option D. Which of the following is definitely false? Y occupied room number 19. Yes, it is possible. If U occupied room number 17, then Y can occupy room number 19. Z occupied room number 34. This is again possible. If U and Y are staying in Riverside, then Z can definitely occupy room number 34. W's room was opposite to T's room. We can clearly see in the given table that W's room was opposite to P's room. It was not opposite to T's room. So the answer is option C. It is definitely false. U was in room number 17. Just for cross checking, yes, U can stay in room number 17 and Y could have stayed in room number 19 or 15 anyway. So the answer is option C. Next, if the number of professionals, each of whom stayed in a room adjacent to the room of a director on one side and a senior executive on the other side was X, find the value of 12 minus X. So we have to figure out the number of professionals who stayed in a room where on one side a director stayed, and on the other side a senior executive stayed. First of all, we can eliminate the corner rooms, the room number 20, 15, 30 and 35. Now, if I look at the room number 19, whosoever is staying in room number 19, on one side, that is room number 20, director is staying, and the other side, room number 18, a senior executive is staying. So person in room number 19 is a possible option, who is an option, because he is staying in a room where one person in the adjacent is a director and the other person in the adjacent is a senior executive. If I look at room number 18, W is staying in a room where both the persons adjacent to him are executive, because all directors have occupied their places, so the blank spaces represents people who are senior executives. So 18 is not possible. If I look at 17, I can see that W is a senior executive on one side of it and S is a director on the other side of it. So person in room number 19 and room number 17 both satisfies our condition. S does not satisfy our condition in room number 16 because both the people adjacent to S are senior executives, and 15 we have already eliminated. If I come to jungle view, 30 is not possible, it's in the corner. 31 is not possible because V and P both are directors adjacent to it. P is possible because person staying in room number 31 should be a senior executive, and room number 33 we know that it's Q and he's a director. So P is possible. If I come to Q is again possible because 32 it is P who is a director, and 34 it should be a senior executive only. So Q is again possible, and 34, the person who is staying in room number 34, for him it is not possible because both the adjacent neighbors are Q and T. Hence, there are four people who satisfy our condition. One is P, the other is Q, and the other remaining two people are who stayed in room number 19 and 17. So the value of X is 4 in our case. So 12 minus X would be 12 minus 4, that is 8. So the answer is option